Hey everyone, hope you are enjoying Idborna so far. Our next talk will be from Todd Norton about zero knowledge technologies.
Thank you for the introduction. Hi, my name's Todd. I'm a cryptographer at Manta Network. Manta Network is a Polkadot parachain. We aim to be the privacy hub for Polkadot. We are soon releasing our Manta Pay protocol. And today I'll be talking to you about some of the technical underpinnings, so snarks, zero-knowledge proofs, and other things the NSA doesn't want you to know about. So the goal for the talk is to get through a very non-technical explanation of what is a ZK snark. So if you've been paying attention to on-chain privacy, then you've seen these letters lying around, and you may have searched for explanations of them, and I think that there's kind of a lack of ones that are easy to follow, and that's what I aim to give today. So it will be totally non-technical. If you're not a cryptographer, you will understand everything I say. If you are a cryptographer, well, you may be a little bit bored by it, but I'll aim to make it entertaining. And then I'll talk a bit about what we can use ZK snarks for. So the ZK snark is an acronym, actually. What it stands for is zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive argument of knowledge, which is rather a complicated string of words. And so when you first see this string of words, you probably go online and you search in the literature for some definition of what they mean. Unfortunately, what you find is unenlightening unless you happen to have studied computer science for a few years. Even if you have, you'll have to spend a few hours working your way through the definitions. And so what I'd like to do today is just brush all of that aside and say what a ZK snark is through a little story, okay? So the story that I have to tell takes place about 2 years ago in the winter of 2020. That was a time when I suspect most of us were confined to our homes, and some of us went a little bit crazy during this time. Myself, I got this weird obsession with the Rubik's Cube. Okay, I found a Rubik's Cube in my home, and I started to play with the Rubik's Cube and try to solve it, of course. And I was really not very good at it, so I tried harder. And I got a little bit closer, and I just couldn't figure it out. Have you played with the Rubik's Cube before? Yeah? Is there anyone who is able to solve it? By a show of hands? No? Okay. So you can identify, you know how hard it is. I looked online for a way to, to understand it a bit better, but what you find when you look online, maybe some of you have done this as well, what you find is that there are just algorithms that are published that will allow you to solve the cube. It's mostly about memorizing sequences of moves, and it's not really about helping you to understand how the thing works, understand the puzzle and come up with your own solutions. So what I wanted was someone who could explain it to me, right? Who could properly explain how the cube works. What I wanted was basically a Rubik's Cube instructor. So I searched online for Rubik's Cube instructors. It turns out that doesn't exist. There's no university degree in the Rubik's Cube, and there's no government that certifies people in Rubik's Cube instruction, and so the centralized authorities have completely failed us when it comes to certifying Rubik's Cube teachers, and we're all on our own, okay? So what I did is I went on a tutoring website and I posted an ad, and I said, Hi, I'm a very motivated student of the Rubik's Cube. I'm searching for a tutor, and if you're able to teach me how to solve it, then I'll pay $100 for the lesson. Now, as I mentioned, we were confined at the time, okay? So we had to do this lesson virtually, which should be fine, except that it makes it a bit more difficult to determine whether a person really can teach me how to solve the Rubik's Cube before we start the lesson, right? I needed some way of screening for tutors so that I wouldn't pay anybody who doesn't actually know how to solve the cube, right? What I needed was some way for people to prove to me, okay, without us meeting in person and them just, you know, solving a cube in front of me, I needed a way for them to prove to me that they could solve the cube. So what I needed fits in nicely to the framework of ZK SNARKs, and I'm gonna use it to introduce a little bit of terminology. The sort of four common components that all of these ZK SNARKs have is that they start with some statement, okay? And in this silly example, the statement is, I can solve the Rubik's Cube. Okay, that's a statement that the potential tutor needs to prove is true before I'm willing to pay them anything for a lesson. So in addition to the statement, you have a prover, and in my example, that would be a Rubik's Cube tutor, right? The person who wishes to demonstrate that they have some kind of knowledge. And that prover, what they're going to do is they're going to form some kind of proof. And then they will give the proof to me, the verifier, and I will follow some protocol to determine whether or not I find that proof convincing, right? And if I find the proof to be convincing, I will accept it, and otherwise I'll reject the proof. So let's talk about a very bad example of this. So one thing that you could do that actually won't work would be to just have them send a picture of themselves holding a solved Rubik's Cube, right? That could be one proof that they know how to solve the Rubik's Cube. Of course, that proof doesn't work very well, because how would I know that they are the one who solved that Rubik's Cube? It could be their friend who did it. It could be a brand new Rubik's Cube that's never been shuffled. And so it's not a convincing proof, right? So one thing that we would ask of any good protocol is that the proof should be very convincing. By convincing, I mean only a person who actually knows how to solve the Rubik's Cube would be able to produce such a proof, okay? So if you produced it, I can be sure that you really do have the knowledge that you claim. So like a slightly better version than a picture would be a video. That's what I thought when I was posting my ad. So I added to my ad, I said, before we start our session, before I'm going to pay you, you need to send me a video in which you shuffle a Rubik's Cube and then solve that Rubik's Cube. And that'll be the proof. I got a reply from someone who said, hi, I would love to be your Rubik's Cube tutor, but I am not willing to send you such a video. And I said, what's the problem? He said, if I send you that video, how do I know that you're not just going to watch the video over and over until you learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube from the video? And then you won't need me anymore and I'll never get paid, right? And he has a very good point, actually, right? When you prove that you have some secret knowledge to someone, you really ought to do so in a way that doesn't reveal your secret knowledge, right? In this case, because he plans to sell that knowledge. But in other cases, perhaps it's because it's knowledge that you never want to give away, right? So what this kind of illustrates is that in this situation you have a tension between what the prover wants and what the verifier wants. The verifier wants the proof to be a very convincing argument, whereas the prover wants the proof to be a very uninformative argument, right? Uninformative in the sense that it shouldn't reveal their secrets to me. And when you first encounter this situation, it seems almost impossible to find a way out. But I wouldn't be telling the story if there weren't one. we have a lot of time today, actually. The talk is sort of shorter than the time that I was given. So I'll take a second. Does anybody care to propose some kind of protocol, some form of proof that we could use? Something better than a video, better than a picture. Yeah. Come again? He says zero knowledge. Yes, exactly, exactly. So yes, but zero knowledge, you know, it's not enough to just add the letters ZK to anything, right? It turns out that adding the letters ZK to something doesn't make it zero knowledge. There's still a lot of work that you have to do, okay? But yes, it's a hard problem. Now so I thought about it for a little while. I thought about how could I be convinced and how could he keep his secrets in this situation? And I came up with a solution that requires you to slightly extend your definition of solve the Rubik's Cube. Because usually when we say solve the Rubik's Cube, we mean take a cube that's shuffled and move the faces around until one face is white and another one's yellow and another one's green, and this screen is blue. Did my computer sleep? Okay. Not enough slides. That's the usual solution of the Rubik's Cube. But somebody who really deeply understands the Rubik's Cube would be able to do more than that, actually. They would be able to take a shuffled Rubik's Cube and move it into any other valid configuration of the Rubik's Cube, right? There are certain configurations you can achieve by shuffling the faces. And if you understand the cube really well, then you ought to be able to move it from one of those configurations into another. So one thing that we can do, and this is what we did actually, I took my own Rubik's Cube and I shuffled it, and I took a picture of each of the 6 faces. And I sent those pictures to him, and I said, send me a picture of yourself holding a cube that has this configuration. And if you can do that, then I'll believe you, right? Now, this is a convincing proof because when I shuffled my cube, I landed in one of the billion configurations that the Rubik's Cube has. And for him to also achieve the same configuration out of the 1 billion configurations would require him to have some actual understanding of the cube, right? And it's at least highly unlikely that he got lucky and put his cube into that exact configuration. So the proof is convincing. On the other hand, he's satisfied with this because the proof is uninformative, right? When I look at it, I just see a picture of a cube, and I don't see the steps that went into putting the cube into that configuration. So I can't, from that picture, extract any of his secret techniques, okay? So what this is a protocol in which the following steps occur. The first step is that the verifier sends a challenge to the prover, and that challenge is a picture of my shuffled cube. And then the prover puts his cube into that configuration and sends pictures of it to me. And those pictures form the proof, okay? And the protocol that I follow is look at that picture and compare it to my cube and to confirm that all of the tiles are in the right place. And if they are, then I'll accept the proof, and otherwise I'll reject the proof. Does this more or less make sense? Yeah? Congratulations. If you now know one zero-knowledge protocol, okay? It's a zero-knowledge protocol that is not terribly useful. In fact, it can only be used to prove the statement, I can solve the Rubik's Cube. And it turns out that we don't have to prove that statement very often in everyday life. So why don't we talk about some of the statements that we do often want to prove. In a blockchain context, some common statements that you would want to prove would be, I hold the keys to a wallet that contains 1 ETH. Or I hold the keys to a wallet that contains an NFT from some collection, right? With such a proof, you might be able to prove that you are a member of a certain online community. If you do roll-ups, then you might actually be interested in proving a statement that goes, I have verified the validity of 1,000 transactions, right? These are all statements that you would, by submitting a proof to them on chain, you might demonstrate that you're eligible to join a certain community, or that you have sufficient funds to back up a certain loan that you're taking out, or that you have participated as a member of some roll-up, okay? Now, when we're in the blockchain context, we have a few new constraints that I didn't have in my proof. So the typical situation in a blockchain context is that the prover will be the user of the protocol, and the verifier will be the chain itself, right? We will, into the logic of the chain, we will include the fact that it sometimes has to verify proofs. And that presents a few challenges, because when you want to post this proof on chain, you're talking about on-chain storage, right? Which is expensive. And so you would like the proof to be succinct, right? So this is where the S comes from, is succinctness, because we want the proof to be small, since on-chain storage is expensive. Another component of succinctness is that the proof should be verified quickly. It shouldn't take a great deal of computation to verify that proof, again, because on-chain computation is expensive, right? Also, if we're going to put this proof on chain, that means that it's being posted to some public ledger, which means anyone is going to be able to look at the proof and examine it. And if it contained some personal information about me, some of my secrets, then I would be leaking those secrets to the whole world. And so the zero knowledge property is essential. That my proofs not leak any of my secrets is an essential property if I'm going to do this on chain.
Wrong one.
Cool, thank you. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I don't know, I mean, see, yeah, don't know, maybe see if there's anyone hanging about or something. Cool. Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, right. Let's see what Ollie's doing, and then here we go. He's coming back. All right, great. Cool. Yeah. All right. Cool. Sweet. Let's. Yes, we go. Yeah. Let's do it. Cool. All right. Sweet. Hey everyone. So yeah, this is going to be the workshop on NIM, how to connect to it and how you can start using the MixNet to essentially add privacy-preserving properties to all of your ETH traffic. So I'm Max. I head up developer relations. Previously, I was an Ethereum smart contract developer as well, an artist and a researcher, and I'm also joined by my colleague Ollie, who is also DevRel, previously a software developer, and currently still a World of Warcraft guild leader. So basically, the structure of this talk, well, I'm going to do a little talk about the MixNet itself, what the MixNet is, how it gives you all of these privacy-preserving properties, and then I'm also going to focus on the three pieces of client software that we have as well, when you would use each of those and what kind of different software situations. And then there's kind of a practical element in the second half, which we can get to, where there's some instructions on GitHub, and then we can all start playing around with using those clients and actually sending traffic through the MixNet. So that's going to be the structure of how I'm going to break this down.
The owner and the asset specified on each note, we're going to encrypt these notes. So the things that are in the bucket are a bunch of pieces of paper that do have an asset and an owner, but that information has been encrypted. So that somebody who looks at the bucket, which means looking at the on-chain data, will actually not be able to decipher it unless they are the owner of one of those notes. So the notes that you own, you have the keys to decipher, and the rest of them you don't. Now, if this data is encrypted, how could we create transactions and make sure that those transactions are valid? Valid in the sense that value of incoming notes equals value of outgoing notes, right? In order to check that, you would need to know what those values are. Or how will we attest to the fact that a note has never been spent before if these notes are encrypted? So these are the challenges that you have when you try to design a private payment protocol, and you can use zero-knowledge proofs to get yourself around those challenges. So what you'll do when you form a new transaction is you will take some UTXOs that belong to you, and you will determine the UTXOs you wish to create. So if I'm trying to send money to my friend, then I take some UTXOs that I have, and I create some new ones with my friend specified as the owner. And then, and this happens off-chain, then I create a zero-knowledge proof of the following statements. So remember, every zero-knowledge proof has a statement that it proves, right? It was previously, I know how to solve the Rubik's Cube, but now it's a very different statement. Now the statement is actually the following four statements put together. So statement one is, I own one or more of the UTXOs in this bucket. The second statement is, I have not spent those UTXOs yet. Those UTXOs have the same total value as the new ones that I'm creating. And the new ones that I'm creating have been formed according to the rules of what it is to validly form a UTXO. Each of those statements can be, I've said them in a little bit of a plain English kind of way, but each of them can be made very precise, right? And so you can actually devise a zero-knowledge proof protocol that is able to prove those. And so you as the user, as the sender on the chain, you will form such a proof locally on your machine. You will submit that proof to the chain, and the chain will check that proof. And if the proof can be verified, then the chain will add the UTXOs that you created into the bucket. And now there are two new UTXOs in the bucket, or however many UTXOs you created, right? And those UTXOs, you marked them with your friend as the owner, and so your friend is now the owner of some UTXOs in the bucket. Take careful note that you didn't say which UTXOs you own and are spending. Take very careful note of how I phrased this. I said, I own one of the UTXOs in this bucket, and I don't say which one. And so what that means is that people who are looking at the chain, they don't see which UTXOs from the bucket are being spent in a transaction. And yet, because there's a zero-knowledge proof provided, they're certain that the transaction was valid. But the UTXO stays in the bucket, okay? It's been spent, but it stays in the bucket. Because if we were to remove it from the bucket, then somebody watching this bucket would be able to see that a UTXO was just spent, and then we would not be, right, we would be sacrificing privacy. But okay, if the UTXO is still in the bucket, and I'm marked as the owner of the UTXO, can't I just go spend it again, right? Doesn't this create free money for me? Well, no, it doesn't, because the second statement was, I have not spent that UTXO yet. And the only way that I can supply a proof of that statement is if I really haven't spent that UTXO yet. The way that you achieve this in practice is a bit technical, and I'm not actually trying to go into great detail on how that works, how you prevent double spending, but it's a very clever thing. And so the ledger checks the proof. If the proof passes, the new UTXO is created. Your UTXOs are no longer spendable because you won't be able to create a second proof that uses them. And your friend now has UTXOs in the bucket that belong to your friend. And so in essence, what has happened is that you have sent them some assets. Concretely, what you have done is just thrown more UTXOs into this bucket. But you know, sort of morally, what you've done is you have transferred some asset to your friend. And that is in a nutshell, how the private payment protocol works. And it's actually all that I had to say. So thank you for listening. I hope that it was useful, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Hey, so feel free to raise your hand if there are any questions. Okay, if not, thank you for the talk.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Toot, toot.
Mělo by to tam být.
Jo, je to tam, ale musel jsem to refreshnout. A tady to mělo být do 18:30. 18:30 má být Radek. Takže za půl hodiny tady má být Radek.
Okay, guys, now we have like 30-minute break and the dinner is being served on the bar. So go and help yourself. And then 6:30, there's another talk right here. And then 7 p.m. we have opening. So bon appetit.
understand that this is a free country. A man can live wherever he wants.
Free country? Man, I should fuck you for saying that stupid shit. Whoa, man, your Jordans are fucked up. Yeah, man, you might as well throw them shits out. Them shits is broke. Man, they looked at the good before he messing up. He did this shit on purpose, man.
I wanna tell you how over and over real love feels like walking on water. I wanna tell you we'll be here forever. Real love feels like walking on water. Something's at hand is right beside me. 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 wanna tell you how over and over. Real love feels like walking on water. I wanna tell you we'll be here forever. Real love feels like walking on water. Something's evidence beside me. Something's evidence beside me. Something's evidence beside me. Something's evidence beside
Evet efendim, üçlememizin son şarkısına da gelmiş bulunmaktayız. Bu da hangisi sence? Evet, o bence benim ses rengime çok gidiyor. Nasıl detone olduğumu anlamışsındır.
Your love takes me higher than I've never been before. And your heart's on fire. It lights me up, but your heart is in love, and I know it, and I know it. Your heart is in love, and I know it, and I know it. And I know it, and I know it. Because you because descends on me. I stay, I move to change the view of where it leads. I've been staring at a road. 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 I feel the weight of what I need. Come and crash for me. I see the stars that light the sky, and I wonder where I've been in the light. In the I've been staring at a road. 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 I feel weak behind the night, as I hear it go inside. Even as the sunrise descends on me, I stay, I move to change the view of where this leads. I've been staring at a road, keep getting closer. I know I can't get it closer. I've been staring